Peeps, well, this is one part of my tab that I really enjoy, and this is coming down through Barrow and Saw as I come along the canal path. So quite amazing this area. But, yeah, really good, really good. So, second part of today's tab. What should we talk about today? Right, so let's talk about the demise of what has been the British Army's staple vehicle, the Land Rover. Now, I've driven various variants of Land Rover in my time, and one thing I will say about the Land Rover is fairly dependable. Not going to say it's the best and it will never break down, because we all know that would be a lie. But one of the things about the Land Rover is it was made into all sorts of variants. I know Keith did a video and he mentioned about the FFR, the Snatch Land Rover. Now, the Snatch Land Rover got a bad rep during the Iraq War. However, the Snatch Land Rover was used during Northern Ireland, at Banner. It was used during the First Gulf War. Yeah, it was also used whilst we were out in Bosnia. And it got us around and did what it needed to do. Yes, it wasn't the best for protection, don't get me wrong. I remember my first tour in Bosnia, I'd been sat at the back of the vehicle. I got the doors open as we were driving down what was then known as Sniper Alley. And it was a young driver said to me, "Can you do me a favour? Can you close the back doors, please?" So I said, "Well, why is that?" "Good morning." He said, "One of the problems we get is down Sniper Alley, what they try and do is they try and ricochet in off the doors, yeah, to get anyone that's inside." So I promptly closed his back doors up. Like I say, the Snatch Land Rover got a bad rep during the Iraq War. I had a Land Rover when I was out in the First Gulf War, and it got me here, there and everywhere what I needed to do, and came out of that successfully. But like I said, there's been various variants of Land Rover. I mean, when I first joined up, we still had the Series 2 Land Rover, then moved to the Series 3, and then we had the obvious Defender 9110. We had the Land Rover Wolf. I remember when that came out, everyone wanted the Wolf because it was a beast, absolute beast, and boy did it get you places. But what are they going to replace it with? Now, we've just had this whole debacle with Ajax, haven't we? Is it £6 billion? Looks as though it's been wasted, and I had to laugh when I read when I watched the video of that Lady General saying about, "Oh, well, if it's operated within its operational parameters." Well, hold on, surely that should have been looked at right at the beginning when they designed it. Operational parameters, what is that? You know, what are we talking there? What we're talking is, we're going to buy something off the shelf of some salesman that sold us a right kipper, and so long as the blokes stop and do the oil changes and do this and do that and do the other, it'll be okay. What a crock. Yeah, absolute crock. Now, the 432, yeah, when that started in the 1960s, and I believe it's now called, is it the Bulldog or something like that? They call it. It's still a 432, it's just got a different engine in there. Yeah, but that went on for God knows how many years. Yes, we serviced it regularly, but it was a piece of kit that was designed to work. And yet with today's technology and everything, yeah, we've given a contract to a company that has given us a kipper at the end of the day. All right, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, the British servicemen don't deserve that. They deserve something that is going to work. Yeah, we had the same with the SA-80 rifle, didn't we? We moved from the SLR to the SA-80. Now, I at the time was attached to 1st Battalion of the Royal Scots. We were in Vaux, in Germany, and we were the first unit in Germany to receive the SA-80. Well, the SA-80 Mark 1, the L85A1, was the biggest pile of poo you could ever come across. Yeah, everything fell off it. And even in 1991, the Royal Scots deployed to the First Gulf War, and the magazines were still dropping off, because as the magazine catch had been designed, it was up against your belt buckle, and when you're running, if you inadvertently sort of banged it against your belt buckle, suddenly the magazine dropped off. Well, that's what you need, isn't it, during a firefight? Yeah, but like I said before, that weapon system was actually designed in 1942. Yeah, it was called the EM2. Now, I know people say, yeah, but there's a different calibre and everything like that, but it was on the table back in 1942. And yet, there they were in 1991. Good morning, ladies. In 1991, using a weapon system that wasn't fit for purpose. One of the reasons that the Special Forces lads ditched the SA-80 straight away was its unreliability. I know that the TA regiments, 2-1 and 2-3, they did have the SA-80 at the time, and it was all painted up and everything. I remember seeing it in the armoury. Yeah, but eventually even they went to the M16. Yeah, because SA-80 was unreliable. And here we are with a brand new system, weapons platform, the Ajax, which is totally unfit for purpose. But again, what have the MOD done? First of all, they haven't put a clause in the contract to say that if it's not up to scratch, then you're going to sort it and you are going to pay the bill. Yeah, which they do all the time. I remember when we moved from the Bedford MK to the Leyland DAF. Again, the Leyland DAF was not fit for purpose. It wasn't designed to go cross country, but because Leyland were going under, yeah, it was the procurement's way of trying to save a British company. Well, that's fine, isn't it? But look, sorry, I'm just playing with my gimbal there. That's all fine, saving a British company, but at the end of the day, Leyland still went under. Yeah, the chieftain, excuse me while I go over the weir. Sorry peeps, as you can hear, going over the weir, you're not going to hear anything I'm saying. But like I was saying, the Chieftain tank, when Chieftain first came out, it had a Rolls-Royce engine in it. Fairly reliable and used all the time. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Billy.
But then we ended up, the power pack was changed for a Leyland engine, Leyland diesel engine. And again, what a problem we had with that. Yeah, forever breaking down. So again, we've gone for a cheaper option, yeah, and made a system unreliable. So I'm a bit inquisitive about what they're going to buy for a replacement for the Land Rover. I mean, one of the most iconic Land Rovers that ever came out was the Pink Panther, what Special Air Service used to use. And if you didn't know, when it was painted in the green livery, it was known as the Green Dragon. Yeah. But the Pink Panther, twin-mounted GPMGs, yeah, used extensively as the Pink Panther in the desert. And again, it was fairly reliable. Yeah, sand traps so that you didn't get bogged in. But I'm just intrigued as to what they're going to procure, or are they going to go for a design? Are they going to actually look at it, hopefully get some serving soldiers involved in speaking about what they want? Yeah, I know when we went for the Leyland DAF, I'd spoken about the man truck, which the British Army's now got now. And I mean, the man truck was there back in the 80s. But procurement ignored that and went with the Leyland DAF, which was probably just best used as a bread van, if anything else. But like I say, you know, the iconic Pink Panther. I saw a thing this morning. Someone's gone to some site where there's a store, it used to be in Luggershaw years ago, of vehicles, military vehicles that were up for sale. And there's things like the Wimex, yeah, the weapon mounted system. You know, so like I say, Land Rover have done quite a bit with the equipment over the years to try and accommodate what the British Army wants. And after 70 years, it's been decided, right, okay, we need to go with something else. I'm hoping that the Land Rover Specialist Department get involved, yeah, and come up with something. Yeah, because it would be a shame to lose Land Rover as part of the arsenal for the British Army, I honestly believe. Maybe we're going to go for some American piece of rubbish. Yeah, mind you, after what Mr. Trump has said about the UK, I've been inclined to steer clear of any American company. Yeah, all of our equipment is toys apparently. Yeah, great that is. If anyone had ever seen something that came out just prior to the Gulf War, it's called the Light Strike Vehicle. Yeah, predominantly supposed to be used for special forces. And again, what a piece of crap that was. And that was designed by the Americans. And when you look at it, that was definitely a toy. It's the sort of thing that you'd buy for your kid for his Action Man. It's of no use whatsoever. Like I say, with me being with the Rim, we got involved in various things. I remember having a Land Rover half track, which we were going and putting on trial. Yeah, we took it out to Germany. We drove it from its manufacturers down to Harwich. It broke the half shafts before we got to Harwich, so we had to load it onto the wrecker. We then repaired it, got it onto the ferry at Harwich, got it across to Belgium, tried driving it down the autobahn, broke the half shaft again, so we had to load it. And then we got it finally to Saltaire training area, sent it out onto the training area, and again it broke the half shafts. Yeah, so eventually we just loaded it, took it back to Saltaire base, parked it up, then we loaded it onto a trailer with a wrecker and dragged it back to the manufacturer and said, right, piece of crap, you can keep it. The other thing that we did that same year was the AT105, which became the Saxon. Now, again, not a bad bit of kit, but for some reason someone decided, it was originally designed for the streets of Northern Ireland. But someone in their infinite wisdom, a politician, decided it looked too aggressive. Have a laugh. Yeah. So, Landrover, I know Babcock are putting in a design, but I really hope that the department within Landrover that have been dealing with various variants of Landrover over the years, yeah, will get involved and hopefully design something and keep the Landrover name within the British Forces. Because for me, to lose Landrover is basically like losing a brother in my eyes. You know, it's been with us for all those years, and I'm not saying it's been reliable, that'd be a falsehood, but it's been fairly reliable for what we wanted to do. I mean, one of the other things is maybe what we want to do is those of us that served out in Germany during the Cold War, you'll all remember Wolfgang Meyer up in Saltown. Now that bloke had a Mercedes van that would go where tanks would fit the tread. Maybe we ought to get one of them. Yeah, because that would definitely get us to where we want to go and probably do the job we want to do. And if we're sensible about it, we can probably sell some bratties and some yellow handbags out the back of it. Anyway, so that's my take on this whole Land Rover situation. I really do hope that we don't end up with another Ajax project, yeah, where we spend billions of pounds on something that is unfit for purpose. And if we do go down the line of procuring from someone, please put a caveat in the contract that says that if you don't come up with the goods, you're paying the bill. Yeah, because I can see what's going to happen here with Ajax is it's going to come into service because £6 billion has been spent on it. We can't waste that, can we? But it should be coming into service so it's fit for purpose. Anyway, that's me with my waffle on this part. Before I go into Mount Sorrel, I'm going to do another video. I just want to say thank you to a few people throughout my life, yeah, that have helped me, and also give you some information on what I'm doing next. So if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. I'm not telling you what to do. We don't do that on this channel, do we, peeps? No, we don't. Yeah, but if you do subscribe, do me a favour. Just drop me a little comment. Yeah, tell me who you are, where you're from, because I always like to reply to my subscribers and get a little bit of interaction and banter going. So anyway, I'm going to head off. Take care of yourselves. The weather keeps changing at the moment. I've had rain, I've had sunshine, but I'm enjoying my life. That's the big thing. So all of you out there, please take care of yourselves, stay safe, and as me and Keith always say, let's tab.